At that age, I really didn't understand why my mother was moving us from place to place to place, or why at certain times we didn't have a place to live. But it really kind of showed me that all I really had in my life was my mother.
Since my incarceration, I am finally free to build relationships and friendships. The best memory that I have in my entire life is the day that I got to prison and I got to go out to the picnic tables. And I'm like, I'm free. I'm free to have friends. I'm free to do what I want. I might be in a controlled environment, but this is nice.
You're making me cry.
It's the truth. It's such a good memory.
When Gypsy was around 8, Dee Dee called one day and said she was diagnosed with leukemia. Like, this poor girl, she has all of these illnesses and then has this.
Honestly, I really didn't know what cancer was, but I was going through so many medications and surgeries that I didn't question it.
Most of the family felt that it was not real. You know, it's kind of like the wheelchair. But then Dee Dee was shaving Gypsy's head and seeing that the medicine is making her hair fall out. So you really didn't know what was going on.
Of course, it was years before we found out that, she didn't have leukemia. That wasn't true. That all of it was a lie.
Munchausen by proxy perpetrators go to the ends of the earth to maintain the charade of having a sick child.
Feeding tube. Wow. After looking at the medical records, apparently Dee Dee had suggested to different doctors that Gypsy was not getting enough calories to allow her to gain weight, meaning by mouth, which is just wild because all of that was a lie.
The documents that we saw, Gypsy, said that you have a fear of eating.
That's ridiculous. Is that something like my mom said?
Yes.
Wow, no, I never had a fear of eating.
Regardless of what Dee Dee said, it's a doctor's job to figure out what's real and what's not. And that was not done for Gypsy. Unfortunately, the decision was made to have a surgical procedure to put a hole into her skin down to her stomach in order to feed.
My mom used to try to make things that was being done to me fun, and so like the feeding tube's name was Mickey Button. And so she came up with a song. It went like this: Mickey Button, MICKEYBOTTON, Mickey Button, Mickey Button.
We find feeding tubes such a common aspect of Munchausen syndrome by proxy because a feeding tube gives a parent almost unlimited control to poison and medicate, starve, and feed their kid.
After the doctors placed the feeding tube in my stomach, I spent 6 months straight inpatient in Children's Hospital in New Orleans. But it wasn't too scary because there was another little girl that was inpatient, and she had a feeding tube. And so seeing that she had one made it easier to accept that I have one.
She had a feeding tube installed, so she couldn't have any physical hard foods, and so they need to clean out some of that stuff from time to time.
The feeding tube was painful. painful, especially when it needed to be changed, because stomach acid erodes the internal hardware of it. And so every 6 months, it has to be replaced. And when it has to be replaced, the child or person is not put under any kind of general anesthesia. They just deflate the balloon that's inside the stomach that keeps the feeding tube in place, and then they just flip it out. But it expands the incision that it gets placed in, and so that part is particularly painful. It made me scream a couple times.
I always would tell her, I'm so proud of you, for being so strong and being in such good spirits. She never sounded depressed or sad.
I think I had the feeding tube placed in when I was about 8 years old, and had that feeding tube changed every 6 months until I was 24.
So you had to get that changed twice a year for 15 years?
For 15 years.
I don't believe that there is a single rational human being on the planet that would not agree that what Dee Dee did to Gypsy was one of the most egregious forms of parental abuse you can imagine.
It just breaks my heart so much to think how much I trusted her. And it makes me angry how she could look at this child and then do what she did. While I was going to hospitals and having these surgeries and tests done, the Ronald McDonald house in New Orleans became like a second home. If not, it felt like a first home, because we would stay there for months on end. And I guess it kind of disguised the fact that we were homeless. Gosh, there's so many good memories that I have of that house. The staff became more like family to us. I remember they had this desk in the office, and I used to sit at this desk, and the staff would let me make like an announcement whenever it would be like dinner time. And so I'd get on like the intercom and I'd be like, dinner is now being served on the second floor dining room. All guests are welcome. I felt so important. The staff had actually dubbed me the queen of the Mardi Gras parade. I had this beautiful blue dress, and I got to have a crown and a scepter. It was great. I felt so safe. It was probably the best place that I could have been as a child.
Christine, interview, take one. Mark?
I'm Christine Hooter. I was friends with Gypsy. When I was in elementary school, I was a Girl Scout, and our troop did an Adopt a Family program, and Dee Dee and Gypsy became mine and my mom's family. I was told Gypsy had cancer and was not going to live like past the age of 10 if she was lucky.
She would tell me, with your cancer, you only have about 2 more years. And then when 2 years would come up, she would tell everybody and me, it's a miracle you've lived this long.
I just focused on whatever made her happy. And Gypsy's love for Disney princesses, I feel like, came up 100% of the time I spend with her. Looking back now, that makes a lot of sense, because all the princesses are living their best life, which I would imagine was just what she wanted the whole time.
Anytime that I would make friends, my mother would guilt trip me. I thought I was your best friend. And she would make me, in a sense, push them away myself.